The storm over the region had rolled in fast, far faster than any of the meteorologists predicted. Thick clouds piled on top of each other like bruised steel, swallowing the satellites one by one. First, the surveillance uplinks began flickering, then the encrypted tactical channels. By the time the full system check came through, half the screens in the Joint Operations Command Center were already washed in glitches. Lines of static crawled down the monitors like digital rain. Inside the room, a low hum of tension simmered beneath the surface. Operators tapped commands, analysts tried to reroute communication paths, officers moved from station to station, asking for updates nobody had. The clock on the far wall ticked steadily, unbothered by the chaos that swallowed the room. Maya Kerr sat in the third row of consoles, tucked between two veteran analysts who'd been doing this longer than she had been alive. Her station glowed with multiple screens, signal readers, waveform interpreters, encrypted comms monitors, tools she usually loved. Tonight, everything felt wrong. The frequencies were too muddy, the interference too heavy. It wasn't just a storm. Something else was twisting the airwaves. She adjusted her headset, trying to isolate the source of the worst static. The rest of the room was focused on drone feeds, but Maya gravitated toward the unexplained, always had. It was one of the reasons she'd been promoted early. She heard things others dismissed. Her eyes snapped to a small window on the upper right of her screen. Channel 3B Echo locked, a channel that was supposed to stay silent unless a SEAL team broke protocol. A channel that had been dead for 74 minutes ever since SEAL Team Echo vanished behind enemy lines. No one said it out loud, but the air in the room carried an unspoken truth. They were probably gone. The terrain was brutal, enemy territory was dense, and rescue teams hadn't found a trace. Officers whispered the same sentence in different ways. No signal means no survivors. But Maya wasn't ready to believe that. She leaned in until her nose was almost touching the glass of the monitor. Beneath the rolling static, she heard something, so soft it might have been imagined, a tick. A breath, a pattern. She froze. There it was again. 3 short bursts, separated by a strange pause, then 2 longer ones. Her heart kicked against her ribcage. That wasn't weather interference. That wasn't equipment malfunction. It was Morse code. She turned up the frequency isolation, fingers flying across the controls, filtering out external noise. The static still roared, but the pattern remained, wobbling, buried, fading in and out, but unmistakably human. Her breath caught. Someone's trying to talk, she whispered. On her left, a senior analyst gave her a tired look. Care, it's phantom static. We've been getting ghost readings all night. No, she insisted, not taking her eyes off the screen. Listen to this. She tapped a sequence, and the filtered audio trickled through a small speaker, a distorted stutter buried under layers of interference. Another analyst leaned over, squinted, and shook his head. Storm noise. The mountains around that region bounced signals in weird ways. Maya ignored him. She pulled up the raw waveform and magnified it. The peaks weren't random. They hit at precise intervals. She had studied enough rescue logs to know when a signal was a coincidence and when it was a cry for help. She swallowed hard. If this is SEAL Team Echo, they're alive. For the first time since their disappearance, her pulse surged with something that almost felt like hope. Hope mixed with fear, because if they were still alive, it meant they were out there in the dark, trapped, hunted, and barely holding on. She amplified the signal again, isolating every microsecond of transmission. Her world narrowed to the soft hum in her headset, the pulse of data on the screen, and the subtle tremor in her own hands. The rest of the room faded away. Behind her, officers argued about drone routes. An alarm blared somewhere on the far wall. Technicians cursed at disconnected satellite feeds, but Maya stayed locked on the faint voice hidden in the static. She knew what she heard. She knew what it meant. SEAL Team Echo wasn't gone. Someone out there was alive and begging to be found. Maya's fingers trembled with urgency as she layered filter after filter across the wavering signal. Each adjustment shaved away another sliver of the storm's interference, revealing clearer fragments beneath. The room behind her buzzed with tension, conversations overlapping in tight, clipped exchanges. Officers debated the viability of continuing search operations. Analysts ran predictive models that all led to the same grim outcome: low probability of survival. But Maya wasn't listening to any of it. Her world had condensed into the single thread of sound looping in her head. Raw, fragile, impossibly alive. The deputy commander strode across the floor, his boots loud against the metal tiles. His expression was tight from a long night of bad news. He stopped behind Maya's workstation, glancing at her glitching screen. "That channel's dead. Care," he said, arms crossed. "We're reallocating resources to the southern sector. Pull your team off that frequency." She didn't turn. Her hand hovered above the filter controls, hesitating for only a second. "With respect, sir, you're wrong." A murmur rippled through nearby analysts. The deputy commander wasn't used to being challenged, especially by someone as junior as Maya. He leaned forward slightly. "This isn't the time for guesswork. It's not a guess." Her voice steadied. "There's intelligence inside this feed, intentional patterns. Someone is sending it." The deputy commander narrowed his eyes. That storm would bury any outbound signal, and Echo Team's last known location is outside our remaining satellite coverage. We would have seen a burst transmission, not if they boosted it through analog fallback, Maya countered. Old SEAL protocol for blind conditions, low bandwidth, low power, just enough to bounce off terrain. Several analysts exchanged startled looks. Analog fallback hadn't been used in years. The deputy commander gave a slow exhale. "Show me." Maya tapped a key and the audio replayed. To most, it was nothing but static, crackling, broken, irregular. But then the faint sequence emerged again. 3 short pulses, pause, too long, and after a moment. Another pattern layered beneath it. She enhanced the waveform. The peaks sharpened. A faint voice wavered through the noise. "Survivors, 6. Pinned." The deputy commander stiffened. The room froze. Even the ambient hum seemed quiet. "Again," he said. Maya replayed it. This time, she slowed the frequency by a fraction. The voice, battered and smeared by interference, grew marginally clearer. 6 survivors, pinned, need extraction." The deputy commander stared at the monitor, his jaw set. "Get this to decryption, now." Maya was already ahead of him, opening coordinate reconstruction software, but as she fed the partial numbers into the system, she saw immediately that the data wasn't only incomplete, it was scrambled. "The signal's being bent," she muttered. "The mountains are throwing it off. It's fragmenting before it reaches us. So we don't have coordinates." One analyst asked, his voice wavering. "We will," Maya said. "Just not the easy way." She launched 3 different signal triangulation tools, each analyzing fragments of the broken numbers. She cross-referenced them with satellite terrain maps, electromagnetic interference logs, and the last drone sweeps before the storm swallowed the region. One by one, the false leads dropped away. She zoomed in on a narrow canyon corridor, an area previously dismissed because its steep ridges made transmission nearly impossible. But the exact same ridges could also trap and amplify signals in unpredictable ways. "It makes sense," she whispered, marking the spot. "They're not south like we thought. They're north. They're right under an enemy convoy route." The deputy commander leaned over her shoulder. How certain? 87% match with the signal bounce pattern, she said. But there's more. She reassembled more fragments, broken syllables and breath patterns from the audio, one piece repeated every 12 seconds, a distress marker, another clicked against the background of shifting static, a code unique to Echo's team leader. Her chest tightened. The data didn't lie. They're hurt, she said quietly. Low ammo, low time, but alive. She pushed away from her console and stood, facing the officers gathering around. The storm outside rumbled, but she felt steady. I have their location, she said. We can still get to them. For a moment, silence held the entire room. Then the deputy commander straightened. Prepare the extraction team. Move. Operators snapped into action. Analysts jumped back to their screens. Radios came alive with urgent chatter. Maya exhaled, her pulse still racing. She wasn't done yet, but she'd bought them a chance that 6 men in the dark desperately needed. The extraction order shot through the command center like a lightning bolt. Within minutes, the entire night shift crew was fully awake, adrenaline replacing exhaustion. Technicians rerouted the remaining satellites for partial coverage. Drone pilots struggled to stabilize feeds through the storm, and field commanders scrambled to assemble a team capable of navigating enemy territory with almost no visibility. Amid the chaos, Maya remained at her console, headphones pressed tight, heart pounding with every flicker on her screen. The helicopter teams launched into the night, blades slicing through thick sheets of rain as they crossed into the same mountains, swallowing the SEAL's signal. The storm distorted long-range visuals and environmental sensors, so the pilots flew nearly blind. Their only guide was the patchwork signal reconstruction Maya had built from fragments everyone else had dismissed. But even as the extraction teams pushed toward the canyon, Maya's screen began to glitch again. Thick static surged back in, more violent than before. She stiffened. No, no, no. She turned knobs gently but quickly. The signal wasn't dropping naturally. It was being jammed. The enemy had found them. She swallowed the knot forming in her throat and spoke sharply into the mic. Command, be advised. Hostile jamming detected. They know Echo Team is transmitting. The deputy commander appeared behind her instantly. Can you stabilize it? Yes, but I'll need to bounce it through a different frequency range. It'll distort voice but strengthen location data. Do it. Her fingers flew. She rerouted the waveform through old analog and digital hybrid channels no one used anymore. The static roared, black bars flickered, lights blinked, but then the signal steadied, clearer than before. A faint transmission bled through. Contact, taking fire, repeat, taking fire. Maya's stomach clenched. The SEALs were under direct attack, and from the sound of gunfire echoing behind the transmission, they were cornered. She patched into the field leader's comm channel. Echo Team, this is command. We have your signal. Extraction inbound. Hold position. For a moment, nothing. Then a broken, exhausted voice replied, Command, we copy, but we're cut off. Ammo low. Casualties. Her throat tightened, but she forced her voice to remain steady. Stay low. Do not break cover. I'm guiding the rescue teams. The signal cracked violently, then returned. Who is this? Maya Care Signals Division, she replied. A brief pause, then the team leader's rough voice came through, barely recognizable through fatigue. Whoever you are, don't lose us. I won't, she said. Just keep transmitting. On her screens, she tracked the SEAL's faint thermal signatures from the last surviving drone. They clustered against the canyon wall, wounded, exhausted, nearly out of ammunition. Enemy troops closed in, tightening the circle. Maya zoomed in, counting shadows. Too many, far too many. She quickly rerouted drone spotlight pings, guiding the helicopter team toward a narrow ridgeline behind the seals. The storm made the exact landing zone impossible to predict, but she improvised using terrain models and signal echoes. Extraction 1, adjust bearing 5 degrees west. She instructed, you'll see a break in the ridge. That's your entry point. The pilot confirmed, voice strained from turbulence. Copy, winds brutal. Keep those markers steady. Maya watched every shift of color on the screen, every spike of sound. The seal's breathing was audible now, ragged and shallow. A burst of gunfire shook the channel. Someone screamed. Someone else shouted a warning. Her chest constricted. Echo team, extraction is 60 seconds out. Hold on. The helicopter's thermal signature surged onto her display, finally within range. She routed the pilot's view through her console to tighten the approach vector. 10 seconds, she called. Gunfire boomed again. A SEAL shouted, they're pushing in. Stay down, she yelled, louder than she meant to. Just 30 more feet. The helicopter burst over the ridge, wash kicking up dust and rain. Floodlights cut through the dark canyon. Enemy fighters scattered as the chopper's side gunners opened suppressive fire. Maya clutched the edge of her console, breath held. Through the static, she heard a voice shout, we see you, we see. The rest drowned in gunfire. Then, abruptly, the channel went silent. Her heart stopped. 5 seconds, 10, 15, then, we've got them, all survivors aboard, pulling out. The entire command center erupted in cheers. Officers slammed hands on desks. Analysts embraced. Relief flooded the room like a crashing wave. Maya sagged back into her chair, finally letting go of the breath she'd been holding for what felt like hours. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from the overwhelming release of it all. She pulled off her headset slowly. She had listened when everyone else dismissed the static. She had found the ghosts in the noise, and because she refused to look away, 6 men who had been written off as lost were coming home alive.